Hey there, glad to have you all back here. My name is Max Schiller. I'm a concept artist working in the movies and games industry. And here is a new process video with a little bit of an voiceover by me. So first of all, thank you guys for all the feedback, for all the comments, all the nice words you've sent to me. I'm checking everything out, trying to answer and respond to the messages. And this time, I wanted to focus on just a Blender workflow. You've seen a quick sketch I've shown with PureRef. You can always rewind it back and take a screenshot or look at it. And that's my base, that's the composition I want to achieve. And what I'm thinking is, when doing that, is I want to stay as close and in the end also as graphic as my sketch is, because it is working in 2D already and I don't want to overcomplicate stuff. I want to keep it as simple as it was, just adding the necessary detail to get the image to the next level. But the goal is really keeping it as simplified as it was in the sketch. So, talking about simple, this is a super quick block out again. Just cubes and planes, of course sometimes spheres, whatever feels fitting. And trying to match the flow of the composition, trying to get the graphic read. To get the graphic read, I'm going to use Eevee in the beginning and change a few settings so I get only harsh dark shadows, right? And then I'm changing the layout, changing the direction of the light in order to get my graphic read how it looked like in my sketch. The sketch is on my second monitor. I can always look at it and watch it. And you see, adding those black shadow areas really directs the eye towards my focal point, which is my small guy in the middle. The whole story is already something that I have in my mind, right? I've created a character that I've shared before on Instagram, and he is going through a little bit of a journey. And this is one of his stops. He's entering some kind of old ancient temple where he's going to find something that he is looking for a long time already. So the idea is it should feel mysterious, it should feel exciting, it should give a interest to the viewer. I want to give the feeling, to convey the feeling of curiosity, that people want to see the next image, want to see how the story continues. So in terms of a few facts about the painting, I think in real time the Blender scene took about 3 hours. The sketches are super, like sketching is a lot quicker. I think maybe that one sketch that I've used took something between 5 to 10 minutes, but I did several. So maybe at the end of this video, we are roughly about 4 hours in, I would say, like half a day of work. But with a 3D scene, with more ideas already fleshed out, or at least not fleshed out, but having more ideas for new images for the next progression of the story. What I'm doing right now here is using assets that I've created myself, that I've sculpted, and we have the how's it called? the asset library, I think the asset library of Blender, where we can just load in assets that we save in a separate Blender file and just can import them super quickly. And I just recently started using it and feeding my own models, my own sketch, my own meshes, and it's super powerful. And I'm super happy that I've realized that I should use it, because it saves a tons of time. I don't have to open other Blender files and copy and paste stuff. Now I have this asset library, this browser, and can just see whatever mesh I need to put it in. So super helpful. And I'm just populating the scene with those meshes. I think it's just 2 meshes right now that I've used, and I'm changing the blocky cubes with the more detailed rocky meshes. After that, I've changed, I'm working on the light a little bit, changing the HDRI to get more cooler reflecting and bounce lighting, copying the sun light to get the opportunity to experiment with a new light without destroying my old light scenario. And here you can see importing another asset that I've created for another project and just populating the scene, getting free detail pretty quickly. Later I'm going to change those pillars because I feel they don't fit the shape language that I'm after. But you can see I'm jumping between tasks, right? I'm adding a little bit of details in form of new meshes. I'm changing the light. I'm changing the position of the meshes to get a better read. I'm using meshes, as you can see right now, to add shadows. And the idea is really always trying to stay as close as I can to my sketch. The sketch is like my Bible, and you should really try to use your references as something that you should stay as close as you can, because the references normally, at least in my case, I'm sharing my references with my clients and my sketches, so they expect something similar to what I've shown them already. And if I change it too harshly, if I'm doing something not as close as they expect me to do, then they are confused, right? They agreed on a vision that I've shared, and then they get something else. That's not good. Also, while building the scene and having those rather detailed meshes that I've created already, I realize they have too much detail, too much depth. I had too strong shadows where the light hits in the background, so I flattened the surface a lot so it gets more uniform. And yeah, we are back again with, at the point where we want to keep that graphic shape. We don't want to make it so noisy and complicated that it's not simple to read. We want a simple read. We want to stay, again, it's crazy. We want, of course, to have all those crazy juicy detail everywhere, but on the other hand, we want to keep it as simple as we can, so it's just nicer to look at. We need rest areas, we need areas where we have higher volume of detail, and finding that balance is often the challenge to create a successful image. For me, totally, like one of the biggest challenges, finding the balance between that, because I love detail, right? And detail, you get easy detail with 3D, but you need to dial back often. And in my case, for the last 2 YouTube videos I did, I hate them already, right? I think that's artist curse. You always hate your stuff, but I really hate them. And I'm going to take them down once I have a bigger amount of videos uploaded, so they aren't missed, because I feel as an image they are not successful at all, both of them. But I think the process is still something from what people can learn a little bit. So I keep them up for now, but I feel like they don't reflect the goal that I normally have with an image. And I mean, it's a little bit hard, right, to see the failure online and keeping it up there and knowing people are watching it. It hurts a little bit, but still, I'll try to think about it as purely educationally, and don't bother at the moment with it. Okay, so I've added a little bit of detail in the background with those architectural walls, again, assets I've created for another project, for another personal project. They feel not really right, not story-wise, not for the image, so I'm going to get rid of them soon. But for now, I'm trying out how to maybe keep them and give them a little bit more of a purpose in the scenery. I try to keep everything that I'm doing in Blender on one screen, and it's getting quite clustered. I would encourage you to, especially for the node graph, for the shader editor, to maybe pause, maybe take a screenshot, look at it. What I do normally is pretty simple. I'm using just one texture that I photographed myself or found online. Textures.com is a really good website to get nice textures from. And normally I'm using that one diffuse texture also as a roughness map and as a bump map to get reflective and like a little bit more detailed outcome, not just the base diffuse map. And what I also do is changing the colors and adding a little bit more interest. And you will see in a few minutes that I'm going to infuse a lot of color into that one diffuse map that I'm using all over the scene to give a little bit more of an artistic feeling to the scenery. Because this right now feels quite realistic, right? But the real life can sometimes be very boring, very gray. And as an artist, we luckily have the creative license to change that, to make it more interesting, to make it more personal. So I would say, are not afraid to change stuff to make it less realistic, because I think a creative voice is a lot more important than just copying real life. In the end, we are designers, artists, and if we just want to copy the real world, then we would probably just take a photo and that's it. But we want to change it. We want to make it more entertaining. We want to make it more interesting. We want to make it more unique. All right. So if you have that sketch that I've shown in the beginning open, you're going to see that it's pretty close still Maybe I've changed a little bit of the light beam in the background, the position. Maybe I've added a little bit more light on the left side of the image. Also, I think the foreground now is a little bit more cutting into the right side on the lower bottom of the image. But still as close, or I'm close enough for me to say this is still matching the sketch very much. Okay, so what I'm doing now, again, using the diffuse map and a color ramp to create a mask. And then with this mask, I can infuse color to specific parts of my texture. And this way getting a very unique and artistic texture out of a realistic photograph, which is super cool. Trying out a little bit of color theory stuff, right? The light is pretty cold, so I'm trying out to add warm tones, which looks kind of interesting, but I wanted to go more into the cools. And in the end, I felt like once I had all those coolish green blue colors, I was able to add warmer saturated tones just around my focal area to get a nice color contrast there and to lead the eye more towards my subject matter or towards my focal point, which is the character on the bridge. But also to give it a little bit more storytelling, right? Because in my head, or the story itself is pretty, not necessarily dark, but also not very nice and bright. And I feel like the whole world that I'm creating right now should reflect that more harsh and cold feeling, but my character should have this warmth. So giving or creating more warm and saturated colors just around my character gives it more importance in terms of storytelling in this direction. That didn't make any sense. But I don't want to cut anything, so we'll just go on. Because the idea I didn't have that idea before or in the beginning. I'm trying out stuff here and adding that warm fog, or now adding other textures just to see what is working, what is not working. Really experimenting. It's the same like experimenting while painting and just adding brush strokes. That's the same way I'm using that technique right now, right? I have always a feeling and a direction I want to go already in my mind. But unfortunately, I don't have the ability to really see that final image in my head yet. For me, it's a progress that I'm slowly getting, or that I'm slowly refining as I'm progressing in the painting or in creating that 3D scene. But I think I was pretty happy with that texture because it has those warm tones, and that was the beginning of the idea solidifying in my head to having the warm tones on my character. Now I felt like, okay, cool, but I want to have a little bit more size comparison. So the best way is to add stuff in the foreground that is repeating also in the background. And we see stuff in the foreground is big, in the background it's getting smaller. Therefore we have a nice depth information. And I'm doing it right now in terms of with small stones and greebles. So I've created just with a few isospheres, a few stone shapes and I'm scattering those stone shapes onto that plane with an add-on called GeoScatter. And then I can use that plane and shrink wrap modify it on top of that foreground stone mesh. And the idea is that the scattered objects on that shrink wrapped plane are exactly on the surface of my surface mesh. So again, first of all, creating my objects to scatter, then creating a new plane, shrink wrap modify it, using the mesh in the foreground as the target, and as you can see, it's around that mesh, and it looks on my rendering as if they were scattered all on top of that rock in the foreground. And I'm copying that plane and adding those scattered objects in the background as well. And this really gives me that scale read that I was after, which is pretty nice. And the more you work on projects, the more you create, the more you get a feeling of what is needed to convey a sense of scale, sense of direction, sense of flow, readability, because it is a lot if I would count them all down and trying to talk about them. And for somebody who's just starting, it could be super overwhelming. But I feel like while creating and while creating and while practicing these kind of images for your portfolio, for example, you get a sense of what is needed and what is not needed. And yeah, there are a lot of things that I don't know or that I did forget, or for sure that I need to practice. So there's never that end in sight. But I personally like that. I personally like to challenge myself, to learn something new every time I'm doing a painting, to remind myself of principles that I've learned. It's just nice to advance in your craft. Okay, let me just drink a sip of coffee quickly. All right, so what I'm drawing right now is changing a little bit of the composition, or experimenting at least, looking how the curves could read into the image, making it a little bit more flowy, a little bit more directional, and also a little bit closer to my sketch. But those are really minor adjustments, and I think in the end I'll just go back to what I had before because it looked good. Now I felt like, okay, 3D, I'm not nearly as close as I wanted to be. It's looking cool already, of course, but I feel like make a screenshot, put it into Photoshop, and just sketch a little bit over it. Make it more fun, right? 3D can be very slow. So jumping into Photoshop and just adding brush strokes, changing a little bit of the composition, trying out ideas like enlarging those pillars, seeing what could help to make that painting or that image better. It's super easy to do in Photoshop, super easy to do in 2D. And you see, like, trying out flags, trying out some kind of cloth, trying out to make that path clearer. This would certainly take more time in Blender than just quickly painting over it. And also it's a nice break from all the 3D, right? I mean, adding a little bit of the fog, adding a little bit of the glow is always nice. And in terms of client work, it would also be good, or it's also good to do that and give work in progress to the client, right? So he can see, okay, we've seen the sketch, the black and white sketch, just values, didn't really know what you're doing, and now 2 hours in, you can give us this kind of scene, and they can give you feedback. They can, I don't know, they can critique the architecture, the light, the colors, whatever. Or they can say, cool, go on, Max. Yeah, so adding a little bit of stuff and also getting a better feeling of where I want it to head in the end as well motivates me to jump back into 3D and to push the 3D closer to the painting that I just did. And this way, in this case, I'm motivating myself to push it further, because I have a better understanding now of what I want to do, and trying to accomplish that. And also, I have a fresh mind right now, because I know the lighting and the painting over and that stuff is making the 3D nicer in the end. So I can focus on other stuff that just came into my mind, because I got rid of the fear that the image isn't working. For example, I felt like where this stripe of light is coming down towards my character, that whole wall is simple and nice to read, but it feels not crispy enough, not believable. I think believable is the better word, not believable enough. So what I'm doing here is, again, using just one asset, duplicating it and trying to give that rocky wall more definition. And personally, I feel like this is adding a lot of interest without compromising my composition, without compromising my focal point. And I think also it's a cool contrast to have all those details in the light section. And the shadow sections are very, not flat, but they're less detailed in terms of depth detail. So my eye wanders naturally from detail, light areas, to shadow, calm areas. And yeah, I'd say for me it's working pretty well. Also what I like is, or what I wanted to do is, I wanted to add more lights to get more interesting reads, because normally I want to create a rhythm in my light. I want to go from a shadow to a light, to a shadow, to a light, to a shadow, to a light area. So my eyes and my mind is interested the whole time it wanders through the image. And I think that's one of the key elements I keep in mind with my lighting. I want to create a nice graphic shape, and I want to have like this nice step-by-step repetition of light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. You see right now, for example, and I think I'm going to adjust it very in a very damn it, how should I say? But what I wanted to say is, you see the pillar on the left side, which get a lot of light right now. For me right now, looking at it, it takes the most focus. And that was never the goal, right? The goal was that my little person there gets the most attention. I'm thinking I'm doing it right now here. I'm going to Live Compositor and changing a few things. And, or maybe not now, but later, I'm realizing that fact that it's getting too much attention. So I'm bringing down the light. So I keep that bright part of my pillar. You can see it right now here. I'm trying to change, or I'm adding more contrast to see which are the light and dark areas, in order to change that in my image. But yeah, I'm keeping the plan is later to keep the light on the pillar, but dialing it down so it's more like so it's not the strongest location of contrast like it is right now. You see, now we have still that nice read between background dark, pillar light, pillar shadow side dark, background dark, but it's not taking too much attention away from my focal point. This is the next day, because I had to stop in the evening. And I've added my little robot guy, because it's his story, right? And I'm also now changing the architecture, because again, the pillars didn't reflect the kind of design architecture that I had in mind. So now I'm adding those pillars that I felt more fitting. Yeah, but I had to change a little bit of the asset, because I wanted to have it bigger. And again, this asset was created by me. I think I think I've created this asset for the first video on this YouTube channel, actually. That's fun. And that's the cool thing about 3D as well, right? You not only are quick to create your scenery, no, you can reuse your stuff. And what's also cool is you can give it to the client and they can use it. At least using it as a base for the 3D artist to refine it according to a concept, to use it in the game or in the movie. Or what's also cool is I'm having this scene already. I have another shot in the same cave. So the next shot is probably going to be created way quicker. And that's for me at least, like those are the big benefits of 3D. The one negative side of 3D for sure is the trap, and I think I said it again. Said it already in the last video. The trap of having everything too stiff and too 3D looking. And by changing the texture here, for example, I'm trying to get rid of it already in the 3D stage by adding fog, by adding a little bit of blur on the sides through the Live Compositor. I'm trying to get rid of that super clean and sharp 3D look again as well. But most crucial part for me is, in the end, if I'm using those realistic assets, the paint over later. The paint over to make it my own, to give it my own voice, to make it more artistic, to make it less 3D looking, less stiff. I think, or I want my concepts to have a heart. And the more it's just basic 3D, the less that heart is coming through. Doesn't matter how good this story is or how nice the assets are. For me, the heart of the painting, of the image, of the concept, is the most important thing. And I can accomplish that through painting over. And yeah. So what I'm doing now, adding more details, making it a little bit more complicated, but those details are added in a way that I'm trying to still have leading lines towards my subject matter, right? I'm not adding those stony parts at the bottom of the image, underneath the bridge. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I did this quick sketch to showcase you. I had very even shapes or negative spaces, and that's, I don't know why, but every artist naturally creates those even spaces, and most often they look not good. So the goal is to analyze your image, to find those even spaces and to get rid of them, to make everything feel more organic. Yeah, but back to details. I'm adding details where I think they either serve the purpose of bringing us to our main focus, or the details are around my main focal area to give it more interest and to compel the eye of staying there. All right, and also that's like the biggest change from my sketch is on the right side. I have this broken gate structure, and I've placed it there on purpose because I felt, again, telling a story, I wanted to give like the hunger for more. I wanted to create that sense of mystery. What is on the right side of the image? Where is the robot going towards to? And we could find out in the next image. Stay tuned, right? Cliffhanger. That's the idea behind it. So always trying to think about your story and how to make your audience hungry for more. Now I'm adding a few fog or cloud cards, experimenting with it to first of all give more separation and more scale. And clouds are also epic, they always look cool in images, but also to get more data later when painting over everything, right? And I think we are close to the blenders part. I'm just adjusting a few things, exposure and stuff. But yeah, again, this was a longer video, but I feel like not having to make the video super fast is a nicer way for you guys to really look at what I'm doing. And if you're interested, I've also recorded the Photoshop part. I might do a voiceover there too to explain what I'm thinking while painting. Though I feel like when painting, I'm super chaotic. My eyes are jumping around crazy, adding stuff, changing stuff. And it's slowly just getting together, and mysteriously in the end it looks a little bit better than just a 3D render. But for me personally, this is the first YouTube video, or the outcome of the first YouTube video that I feel like that's nice. That's something that I'm proud of, and I think the reason for that is simplicity. Again, having this simple composition created beforehand and sticking to it, just gives me or pleases my artistic inner self more than just building your scene with assets you've designed already and then trying out with a composition. I can always change the composition, of course, later, or create a new shot out of this scene and add on top of what I've created already. But this is like a nice starting point to talk with you guys, or in a professional workspace to talk with the client about, and talk about your story, your ideas, your thoughts, and in the end, I just hope this was helpful. Thanks again, everybody, for all those super nice comments, and just continue reaching out to me, because I really enjoyed talking to you, reading those very encouraging messages, and as you can see, it encourages me to continue and to do more of that content. Feel free again to send requests of what you'd like to see. I'll try to honor every request and to create something, but again, it's taking a little bit of time, right? Those are a little bit time consuming, but super fun. So for now, I'll continue, and I hope you all had a great time. All right, see you guys next time. Have a great day, and bye-bye.